Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Cammy, and it is, I think it's Thursday, actually, Thursday the 30th of March, 2017. Now, hey, here's something interesting. Do you know what? A couple of years ago, I spoke to a man who's done a lot of good, and he does videos on YouTube, helping people with their health, which is obviously extremely important. And we were talking about YouTube videos. He said, do you know what? My YouTube figures, you know, the viewing figures go down. I said, what do you mean they're going down? Well, you're not having not as many people are watching them or subscribing them to them or something like that. He said, no. He said, the figures of certain videos, when I put them up, they actually go down. I said, well, what are you talking about? How on earth can that happen? He said, well, listen, when I go to bed at night, they are X number have been watched, you know, X number have watched the video. So say it's, 500 or something when he goes to bed for a certain video. And he said in the morning it's X minus, say, 50. So it's 450 in the morning when it was 500 when he went to bed. And I've heard others talking about this and never really believed it. But then recently, over the past few months, I've started noticing some things going on with mine. So, for example, I can put up a video and after, let's say I check it after about a couple of hours, see how it's going on. And let's say, I don't know, it's had 60 views in a couple of hours. Okay, 60 views and say 2 thumbs ups or something, or, those thumbs up things. So, okay, so then I look at it again in another couple of hours and it's 55. You see the principle. Maybe it's 1 thumbs ups now. So it sort of goes back in time. And another thing that happens is the comments. Sometimes it says it's got comments and they're not there, or sometimes they have comments and they don't appear, and so on. I don't know what's going on behind these YouTube videos, ladies and gentlemen, but the conclusion my friend made was that they don't want you to watch them. On the principle that people don't watch videos because if they haven't got higher viewing rates, then they won't watch them. I suppose also perhaps if it is being interfered with and it's not just a problem on YouTube, a quite extraordinary one, they might also be trying to nudge you in particular directions to massage your ego for certain things and do other things. But when I do my videos, I don't do them because of the thumbs ups or because of the viewing figures. I do them because I wake up in the morning and I've got to do it. Or I'm going for a walk. Oh, I've got to do a video on that right now. That sort of thing. It's not a planned process. In fact, if there's any of you who've watched my YouTube channel over these years, you'll notice the whole thing has been fairly organic, although it has had a direction. I mean, I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 of you who've been watching since right at the beginning, and have seen me change as more information has come in. And those of you who have watched for all these years, I suppose it must be about 8-10 years now, you will also always notice it's had a consistent theme. It's been about pointing you towards God. Because when I was doing the horoscopes initially with the first videos, I was always talking about the book, The Astrology of God, which I had written, which is a book that points us towards God using the solar system. So always it has been my purpose to point people towards God. And I remember actually when I was in America, I think was it 15 years ago or something, and I was doing the mediumship, spirit medium stuff, which of course I don't do anymore. Reasons explained in the book God Makes His Move. Of course I don't do that anymore, but nevertheless I was doing it, and I was doing it in America, and then I did a pilot for a TV show, a network TV show that they wanted to call Rare Medium, which sounded like a cooking program, and then they wanted me to sign a contract, and I said, I'm not signing that. That's a ridiculous contract, and also I want to make sure my book's got something to do with it. Your book, what, The Astrology of God? Yes, that book that's taken me about 10-15 years or whatever to write. Yes, that. Well, that theory, well, I don't think it's a theory, but yeah, that's the most important thing. And if you can't have anything to do with that, then I'm not doing it. So that was the end of that. So I've always had this. That's been my purpose all along, and I've always known that is the purpose. It's to point people towards God. Anyway, as you will have noticed throughout these years that have gone by, that more knowledge has been added, hasn't it? You know, first it was the geopolitical situation stuff, the Agenda 21, the internationalist, corporate internationalist, Zionist plan to take hold of the world, to create one world government. The corporate dead entity sort of second Tower of Babel, you know, with the chemtrails, the spraying of the skies, you know, the geoengineering, the biological engineering, you know, with the vaccines, the chemical engineering, the people, the engineering of the economy, the playing off of people against each other, the wars, the great big corporate communitarian framework in which you always have the opposites fighting each other all the time, yet thinking that they're doing something special, but they're not. They're being played off against each other. What else is it? Yeah, the international corporate entity, the New World Order stuff. You would have noticed me talking about this, you know, and its associated feminism, the social engineering that's involved with it, the social engineering, the manipulation of the media, the advertising, you know, Edward Bernays, all of it. Ended in the Agenda 21, and I did a website, didn't I? endagenda21.com. I did a lot of research into Agenda 21. And in fact, I got so fired up by that, realising all this stuff after, what, 45 years of living in this country, thinking that everything was in a particular way when it was the inverse, and that we've been duped, and, you know, it makes you very angry. This is the natural response. It's a knee-jerk response, and you end up going down to your town hall, as I did. I went to my town hall, the big town hall, and I ended up standing in the middle, telling everybody in there that they're a traitor, to get that horrible EU flag down. What on earth have you got an EU flag in the local council for? So a bunch of traitors, I called them, in my exasperation, and this ended up being front page news on the local newspaper, with a very strange picture of me attached to it. So, you know, this happened. So first of all, it was the astrology of God, as you know, and I was doing the horoscopes with it. Astrology has always been with this, because of course the astrology of God, the solar system and its connection with God has always been part of it. And then the geopolitical situation. And then the next and probably the most important step was when I realised the importance of the Son of God. And I had that incredible moment on that grey day after weeks and weeks and weeks of greyness, when the whole penny dropped and an aperture appeared in the grey clouds and the sun shone on me for a few moments as I made that realisation by the daffodils. I've made note of this in the book God Makes His Move. And then it closed up and didn't open up for quite some time after that. But the importance of the Son of God, and then how that I recognised fitted in with the solar system, and then and that was, you know, it all fitted together. So the astrology, or the language of the heavens, which has always been in the Bible, and, you know, it's been there for millennia, began to dovetail with what was in the Bible. This was an extraordinary situation. Somebody from my past, another synchronicity came in, and somebody from the past, years ago, he said, I'm translating a Bible with a friend. It's about the KJV, for instance, and other Bibles. They are so hugely flawed, and we found that great examples that show this. And the thrust of the Bible really is, you know, it's Olam in the Old Testament, the Aeon in the New Testament. It's God's sovereign rulership through Christ here in the earth, in this world, His government here in this world, good government according to the law, according to God's law, of course. And it begins with the Epiphania. And so suddenly this was a massive, you know, the realization about Christ, then this new Bible, and the realization about one of the main thrusts of the Bible is about the Epiphania, the end of the age of evil. Everyone look to it. It's going to be good. It's the big turning point. It's the fulcrum. It's the moment when everything shifts into a different plane. And it's, you know, as I've explained, it's that completion stage. It relates to the Son. It relates to that unity, and hence you're going to get extraordinary people here in this world. You know, the believers in Christ, the true Christ, and the true God. and those who follow that way of living as much as they can, of course. So, and then, of course, there's astrology. I've done astrology for years and years and years and years, and then I found that period that related to the Aeon. The Aeon is 490 years, right? So you've got 490 years bracketed with these two very, very, very rare astrological events that signify individual, God and government, God through Christ, and government, or God through Christ now, and government, these three things. And 490 year period, almost to the hour. You know, hence the 23rd of March 2023 is that period, is the centre of that fulcrum period as far as I can see. And so we had the astrology of God, we had the geopolitical situation. Suddenly we're learning about Christ and his true position, the true translation as much as we can, and the fact, and I learned about how to go to the original Greek text, how to look up words myself, how to explore it myself. Things were opening up. Then there was the astrology, and of course before all this I'd been interested in all sorts of spiritual stuff. I said I did the spirit medium stuff. I'd done the meditation. I'd looked at all sorts of stuff. Gnostics. I looked at the Islam. I looked at Shinto. I looked at Taoism. I looked at Hinduism. I looked at the whole lot. This has been going on for years. So all this stuff, it's beginning to build up. All these little boxes, these bricks are beginning to build something extraordinary that are more extraordinary together than they are on their own. And then I began to be interested in the law. I got involved with the British Constitution group. Through that, by accident, I met somebody who'd written a book on the common law, and it's brilliant. It sent me in another direction, and others as well. Not another direction away from where I was. It added power to what I already had learnt. It complemented it. Everything it's all cross-referenceable. The astrology to the history to the Bible to the astrology, to the nature of God, to the heavens, to the common law now. All these things cross-referenceable, all working together. None of them being counter to each other, all adding to each other's power, adding to each other's meaning, because of course you only get meaning, don't you, when something is connected to something else. And that's where you get, when you've got ultimate meaning, you've got ultimate unity. So it's bringing all this together, which was extraordinary. And I had no plan. I didn't sort of wake up when I was 18. I got this plan, I'm going to write all this stuff, do all this research, do all that. It's just appeared. And I've had to present it as best as I can, often feeling as stupid as I can when I do it. But I don't remember, I can't look back and think I regret anything that I've said. I'm sure there's a couple of things, but overall it's been in the right direction. And then there was a history. I suddenly started to learn about the history, the true Israelites. Who are the true Israelites? Well, they ended up in Britain. You know, which comes from the Hebrew words. It comes from the Hebrew word covenant, or brith, I think it is. And ain is either man or people, or land or something. British is man, I think. And then what happens from Britain, you get the spreading of the common law across the world, starting with Alfred the Great. The Saxons comes from the word Isaac's sons. You know, the Danes ended up being here, you know, all the tribes of Israel, Danes, the tribe of Dan, etc. All, you know, and then we had this, and this is very clearly pointed out in the Bible. And so this becomes all cross-referenceable. And then, of course, when you look at the Ionian books, you look at the nature of things, you look at the shifts in consciousness that come through the collective growth of consciousness within what I've described as the body of Christ, you know, which is the total collective consciousness of the creation at this moment. And it all fits together, and it all points to something wonderful. It all points to a massive turning point, but a turning point spiritually that it has traction and that's actually in this world, that's applicable through the common law, and better applicable because you can see the world around you. You know, no longer is it as it's presented to us in this very black and white way, which is significant, isn't it, when you're thinking of those who are behind the international corporate entity. You know, they're black and white They like all that, and the red, of course. But yes, suddenly it's in colour. Suddenly, it's a psychedelic world. You see layers and layers and layers and things in everything, meaning everything. I often say the clues are all around us, and they certainly were. And I could go back to films that I watched 10 years before, and suddenly they're in kaleidoscope, meaning, like I did a video, didn't I, about Jack Black? Was that his name, Jack Black? That Jack, but with about death and taxes. And I watched that just recently, and suddenly it's a different film. Suddenly life has all this meaning because of this knowledge. As it says in Hosea, I don't remember the exact reference, the exact verse, but it's in Hosea where it says we are destroyed through lack of knowledge. There's lack of knowledge. Man is destroyed through lack or want of knowledge or something. But when you can see all the stuff linked together, the solar system, the astrology, the language of the heavens, the history of those in the Bible, the real history, the history of the world even, the geopolitical situation, yes, the corporate entities, the common law and the law of the corporations, the STKV Act 1666, I think that's how you say it. All of this intensifies the meaning everywhere, and so you see layers and layers and layers, and everything comes into view. Suddenly you're not on the football pitch blindfolded and running around in circles. You can't see the ball, can't see the tram lines, you can't see the goals, or the other players. Suddenly you can see it all and you can act accordingly. So what's the history, astrology, all these things, the religions, all of these various things that have been gathered together and over the years I've added to. And so, for example, I put the audience really through a sieve, haven't I? Because initially it was all very loose and free and easy, and everything is very easy to get a big audience. And then when I realised the truth of certain things, that had to be part of it. So the sieve was set up, and lots of criticism, loads of people falling away. That's one layer. And then I talked about Christ. And obviously a lot of people, even though they're spiritual, don't like the idea of Christ, of spiritual in inverted commas. Don't like that idea. They think it's very horrible. And so they fell away. Then you talk about the law, and people say, oh, that's very boring and irrelevant. Well, of course, it's probably the most important thing that we can learn, because it's about the framework of the countries and the systems in which we live. And so therefore it's a good idea to know what it is, otherwise you're going to be shafted, aren't you, by those who do know. So the law, you start talking about the law, people get fed up with that. But some people get attracted to it because they think they can get a freebie with the council tax or whatever. Some, not all, or they might want to build something, or they want their freedom. And then you have to tell them, but the freedom that we have has got to be within government. You go to Romans 13 in the Bible, because this is our reference point. The common law comes from the Bible. The Bible says government was created to create some sort of order over man. It's created by God to be something that protects man and holds God's law in this world. Not completely abandons God's law and puts it into corporate admiralty law, maritime law, which is what's happened across the world because of people's ignorance. So, an enormous bank of knowledge. So, you talk about the common law, and then you sieve people out. You talk about this, and people go, and so the audience sort of goes like this. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, I like him. Oh, I don't like him. He's mentioned that. Oh, I like him. Oh, I don't like. He's talked about feminism and the true, unpleasant plan behind that. And so on. So people have gone through this sieve for such a long time. But I've had to maintain the truth. I've had to say exactly what's true. Sometimes it's been blunt. Sometimes it's probably been very unpleasant to hear. It certainly was to me. It's terrifying at times to find out some of the information that I found. But, what do you do? I've got to do it. I've got to tell you about it so that we can see what's going on around us. Anyway, somebody got in touch. They said, what about more common law videos? The thing is, my purpose isn't about teaching about the common law. If you just want to learn about the common law, then, well, actually, I'm a very good place to go, because the common law is rooted in God's law. And you can't apply the common law unless you know about God through Christ. And the nature of God through Christ, and how it interfaces with us. Otherwise, how can you truly know about the common law? Yes, you can apply the laws and so on, and look it up, and go through the motions and know about Section 13A, Local Government Finance Act, etc., or whatever, and know about that, and then know about not interfacing with corporate entities, about legal fictions. Yes, that's all useful, but the true application of the common law comes from its spirit, comes from the spirit of a man or a woman. And of course, a man or a woman is God's creation. And then, so therefore, you've got to go to God's law. You've got to go to the Bible. And you've got to see it in the context of this world entity, this corporate entity that actually wants to destroy mankind, destroy governments, destroy families, destroy the sexual differences, destroy the differences between old and young, maintain people's fascination with sex and childishness all the time so they regress into the womb and ultimately go mad. Fill the world with chemicals and poisons so they go mad. Make them ill so they have all sorts of pills when they don't need to be ill. And so on and so on. This is the adversary. And of course that adversary, by the way, you apply the common law to defeat the adversary of the big international fraudsters, and their main concern is people understanding Christ. That's what their main concern is. The true Jesus Christ, the true message of the Bible, one of the most important of which is God's government, God's sovereign rulership through Christ over from the heavens, the divine intervention, the importance of sovereignty, the importance of sovereign nations. It's all there. And so the big adversary of this corporate entity, just as it was for Nimrod and the Tower of Babel and so on, is God, is the truth, is what is. And what is, yes, it's God through his Son. And they're which actually, of course, the two complement each other and add to each other's meaning. You only know you're talking about the true God when you're referring also to his Son, who is risen, has been risen from the dead, and also will appear and destroy death, and will appear and destroy Satan, the adversary, will close that divide and take us on to new heaven and new earth. The ultimate peace is in all this knowledge and truth. And that's why I'm here, to bring all this together. I didn't know that I was here to do that, but do you know what? I did a couple of, over this past week or so, I've done a few videos, and yesterday it occurred to me that I've sort of summed up. I've gone a full circle now. I've built the foundation. I've got the plans, sort of thing. I've said what it's going to be. I've covered more or less anything that I would have found it uncomfortable to say. I've said it. And I felt very relieved about that. And but I would like, yes, going back to his chat, common law, I will do common law videos if I see fit to do, if I get inspired by something I read. But for you out there, if you want me to do if you want me to do astrology videos only, if you want me to do common law videos only, if you want me to do the history of the Israelites only, if you want Christ videos only, or astrology videos only, did I just say that? I don't know. Then go to the sources that I refer you to. For example, with the common law, go to the Common Law Nations website. If you want to know about the common law, go to the Common Law Nations Alliance website. Go to the videos. Go to Richard Cornforth's videos. They're on that page. It's the top one. There are 3 of them. Watch them with a pen. Just really study them, and get in touch with him. Get some of his stuff. Learn about it. I can't find a better place to go to than what he does, although I think all the other stuff, or the other videos, I think Carl Lentz is very good. I think Barley Man has been extremely, he knows his stuff as well, done some great stuff. There's many of those out there who can do it and who have information on it, but Richard Cornforth, go through those 3 videos, look up what he's talking about, and look up the case law, understand the 4 legs on the table, and jurisdiction, authority, the witnesses and so on, and you're going to be making big ground. Understand the nature of the corporate entity and the nature of contract, your contracts with it, and the nature of your legal fiction, and you're well on the way. I mean, there's really little more I can say on that at the moment. I'm not doing a common law course. I'm not doing any particular course. If I'm doing anything, my task, work so far as anything to go by, it is to point you towards God through Christ in a way that you can have traction here in this world. It's all linked together, and the solutions are not in the big corporate system. They are not petitioning, they are not protesting in streets, they are you getting on with it in a true way, spreading the word in the best way that you can, and you know what I mean by the word, and applying it, and understanding why you're applying it. Again, we are destroyed, aren't we, through lack of knowledge, or want of knowledge. So when we've got it, we're in a better position to be strong. You are not strong if you're going around with a banner screaming and shouting in the street. You're better doing it and living it in a very true way. And remember, the common law is indeed open to everybody in the common law nations. It's extremely powerful to help you maintain your freedom. It's the most effective weapon against the corporate entities across the world at the moment. Of course, the most important weapon at our behest at this time. And that is, of course, with an understanding of Christ and God. You know, these are all extremely important. The understanding of God through Christ is extremely liberating. It doesn't turn you into some churchy sort of follower and weak. It turns you into somebody who can actually speak with some sort of authority. And also hope and aspiration and a sense of life. One more thing. Divide to rule and divide to conquer as well, isn't it? That's another thing. We can't be compartmentalized. What I have shown you is the best way not to be compartmentalized. It takes you out of the compartments, takes you from the stars to your law book, stars to your home, to your family, to the heart of you, to the Bible, to the magnificent script that is in the Bible. Absolutely wonderful stuff when you have all these different layers of understanding. The whole reading the Ionian books, for example, or going through the Greek, or spending an evening looking at a particular word even. You know, this is, it's so enriching that it's incredible. And this is what I'm about, I suppose, as well, enriching your lives. And I really do hope I have enriched it. There's nothing better for me to see somebody who has read my work or listened to what I've said and found something from it that has given them some sort of strength in their life, some sort of inspiration, uplifted them in some sort of way, given them back a bit of, restored them to what they're truly about. You know, there's very few things I think that are more rewarding than that. And there's some of you have been immensely generous as well. I'm going to say thank you to you as well. You know, you don't have to do that, and I'm immensely grateful to that, to you for doing that, and you know who you are. So now, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that answers that prompt, that comment from that chap who wrote about more common law videos. Yeah, there's more to life than common law. But when you have common law in the context of life, it's extremely powerful. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.